So howdy everyone, welcome to this MLM Millionaire Club Quick Start Basics program tonight. We're super excited for you to all join us tonight. Our goal is to equip and empower and entertain and educate you on the basics of building your business. Our goal of this school is to teach you how to build a strong and profitable business. Before we get started, we invite you to grab a pen and paper so we can let you know what's coming up. We have and welcome to the call. Who you ever joined us at 973? That would be Adrian. Welcome. And I know Lisa plans to hop on too, so we welcome you. And we want to let everyone know that Jeff and I lead a wonderful MLM lunchtime leadership show Monday through Friday at noon Eastern Time on John Maxwell's book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. So every weekday we take one of those laws. Sunday coming up is law number 6, which is law of solid ground. And people are just loving these, getting a lot out of them. They're learning how to be better people, let alone better network marketers, business people, community members, even employees at their job. So it's very wonderful personal growth. And you can find us at that Facebook group, the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, that Facebook group, and watch there. It's about 45 minutes or so of a lesson each weekday. So that's just free, open to the public. You can invite people. And also Jeff and I do a Facebook Live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, which is one of the aspects of network marketing. So that is becoming a popular show too. I'd love to have you join us for these if you like. Since you are in the big Quick Start Basics class tonight, Liz, I didn't tell you about that, but on Wednesday nights, you all are invited for free to Leadership University here at the same number on Wednesday night, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And this is free to you through December, so it's kind of an extra bonus that we're giving to the members of the class. And what we're doing is we're covering one of John Maxwell's books a month. So in this month, we are covering Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. All really deep and thorough and wonderful principles about communication. It's said that all problems are communication problems, so I just love this particular book of his a lot. And you can get the book and read along, or you can just pop into the class and listen if you've just joined the school. So we'd love to have you. That's every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, same format, about 90 minutes, and we open it up for questions and answers afterwards, same as tonight. So you're welcome to pop on then at the same number and enjoy that John Maxwell lesson. Jeff is a certified John Maxwell trainer and speaker and coach, so we're real lucky that we can bring these to you through his certification, his training, all of his experience. And I'll speak about his experience in just a minute too. Now there's something really cool happening next Sunday in a week. It'll be at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a special class for people who've been asking about the Quick Start Basics class. And some people are some of the club members are inviting their team members to hear this. You can invite friends. You can let people know. You can hop on yourself. You're welcome to. We're going to go over in detail the favor script, the Always Get a Yes script. And the title of that event is called The World's Hottest Script. And I think that it is. I think it's the best script I've ever heard, ever, in teaching network marketing or being in it. For the years I was full-time, and it was created by Jeff from Real Estate, brought over for asking for referrals, and we'll talk about that. But it's in your book, You Always Get a Yes book, pages 5 to 12, that whole process. So that's going to be a special class. It'll last 30, 60 minutes, and y'all are invited to hop on because you can't hear those basics too often about how to use the favor script. You're welcome to bring people. And we're even going to have a few of our club members speaking for just a minute or so about their experiences and how this is help them to jump ranks, quadruple their sales, and other cool things that are happening. One of our club members, Mark, I think I shared it with Liz, but one of our club members last week said, I've quadrupled my sales in November. I've jumped 2 ranks. I have earned a new car bonus, and all the while going through a bunch of personal trauma due to what we're teaching here and our confidence in her, she said. So we're getting, this makes our day. We hear these repeatedly, and we know that now that we're definitely working for people. So we'll be sharing more about that on that December 16th Sunday class, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. You can plan ahead for people that are going to be in the Indianapolis area or anywhere around Indiana. The end of January, 25th to 27th, is a regional quarterly event that Jeff and his partner Brandy are putting on in Indianapolis, and it is called Launch Free Enterprise Summit about financial language and mindset. The people who attended the October one, including me, were just blown away, and we all had breakthroughs. So this promises to be just a real wonderful one. At this time, I want to welcome our newest club members. Liz Dickerson and her husband Mark are both listening right now, listening in on this class, and they are in Washington, middle of Washington, a little town there, and they're reaching out to get this training because this is what they're lacking in their company. So we're real happy to fill this in for them, and I know you have high goals. We're here to walk with you and to assist you to those. And I look forward to hearing your results too. Also, I would like to welcome Shamala from South Africa, and her name, again, I have to remember her last name, but you'll be listening to the replay, I know. I'm sorry, I didn't write it down. But Shamala has also made the commitment to herself to be in this class. I'm real proud of you. And through the replays, because it's 4 a.m. there, through the replays, we will love to help you. And please, message me any questions that you have, and we can take care of that. So, my name, again, is Bess McCarty, Coach for Network Marketers, Shrink of MLM, and Jeffrey David Gamble of My Leadership Network. We partner to bring you this generic training, the Quick Start Basics for Network Marketers. It covers the 10 core commitments proven for decades to give you the foundation that you need to get really good start and to get your team started too. So this is where you get all the basics, the skills, and the mindset here every Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Our purpose is to help people grow, to educate, empower, and equip entrepreneurs and create independent servant leaders. We really want to raise the bar in this profession. A little bit about us. I was full-time network marketer for years, long time ago. Helped me raise my son as a single mom and have that freedom to do that. I loved it. However, I had to overcome my shyness to be able to do it. So I understand helping network marketers through their fears and shyness. After my company went out of business, I became a body-mind therapist to help people for my own personal growth and to help others. I bring this back to help network marketers. I'm committed to being a totally generic coach. I'm not in a company anymore. I do not want to divide my time and attention. I'm totally dedicated to doing this and being a coach. I love helping them network marketers figure out where they're stuck and have breakthroughs, similar to what Tony Robbins does. Now, Jeff has personally lives in Indianapolis, of course, he and Brandy, and he has personally recruited, and they're 2 cats, by the way. Sometimes we get a glimpse of them. He has personally recruited over 500 people frontline in network marketing, built 2 teams of over 5,000 people. His team had 5 of the top recruits in his state and his company, and they produced over $10 million in sales. His team for 4 years was one of the top 25 teams recruiting in the country in his company. So he's helped a lot of people. We met 4 years ago on Eric Worre's page on Facebook and have been in touch. And it was May of this year that we had a long talk, like 4 hours. And I discovered his favor script and other things that were the best that I've ever heard. So I knew I had to bring this to my students because I'm committed to bringing the best that I can find, and I've studied network marketing teachers for 10 years, as well as bringing my own experience. But when I learned what Jeff had, I knew that I had to bring it. Asked him to speak. He did a lot of times just so generously just to help us. And eventually we knew that we were going to be teaching in the school together. So we're doing the school together now. It's actually the three of us, Jeff and Brandy, and I have a partnership in our school, the MLM Millionaire Club. So we're real happy. It's generic training compatible with your company. It's for everyone, but if you do find any discrepancies, just follow what your company says. If it's good and tried and true and you trust that, this is for everyone, beginning, starting, long-time people, moving people, stuck people, whether your focus is customers, recruits, or leadership. And those are the three levels of the network marketing, getting customers and then training other recruits and then leading, becoming a true leader. So we really value helping you at each stage of this to lay a good foundation, make money, and get all the important stuff that you need for you and your team. This group is where you connect with people, interact, and have fun and stay on track. Here's the 10 core commitments that we teach. Number 1, get started right. Every week we take one of these, and tonight that's the one we're on, getting started right. So it's just going to be jam-packed. You'll love it. Number 2, be here a year from now. That's about commitment and long-range vision. Number 3, personal development. Number 4, market daily. Number 5, present daily. Number 6, attend weekly presentations. Number 7, attend weekly core trainings, which is what this is. So you're doing number 7 tonight every time you come. Number 8, attend your monthly regionals. And number 9, attend all your company conventions. And number 10, have a monthly action plan, your game plan, your strategy. So this includes the skills that Eric Worre teaches in his GoPro book. He's the #1 network marketing teacher. I think everybody has heard of him or knows of him. It also includes the mindset, which is 80% of success. By the way, those 7 skills are finding people, inviting, presenting, follow-up, sign them up, train them, and get them to events. So this covers all of that, includes all of that. We suggest that you stay in here to learn and deepen your knowledge. Every time I hear it or teach it, I get a deeper layer of this, and we hope that you do too, and that you can take this back to your teams. We have levels of certification that we award to every person who attends 10 or hears the replays. As soon as you've completed those 10, for you new people listening, let me know. Facebook message me, and we have the certificate for you. And by the way, Pasha Bolin, who's on tonight, has now completed her 10, so she is eligible for her first certificate, and she's working on her second. We have 4 in all. We have 4 levels of certification in all. So you attend all of the 1 through 10 or hear the replays. Let us know, just your word of honor. Just Facebook message me, and Jeff makes up this really great certificate, and you get that as an award. So you keep track, you make a little note which ones you attend and hear the replays. Okay, almost done, Jeff. At the 90-minute mark, we're going to turn off the recording and let you ask questions, and there was no worries about being recorded or anything like that. Also, that's where we'll want to hear your takeaways, your insights that you have, anything that you want to discuss or share or ask. So that's the time to do it. So if the question comes up for you during this, make a little note of it, and that's the time when we'll open it up for you. Okay, over to Jeff.
Okay, awesome, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fantastic. So tonight, what we're going over, first of all, I want to say congratulations to those who have just joined us. I know Liz, her husband, as well as South Africa. That's so cool that, we have people from literally halfway around the world. I know we have a couple members in the school in Australia and parts of South America and Canada and Europe. So it literally, the school has now gone, I believe, almost all the way around the world. If there's places we haven't hit yet, we're working towards those. So that's cool. And basically, we're all here for a common theme. And the common theme is how do you get started, or what is the best way? That's what I kind of found out. Is I sat and I listened to a lot of different people. Lisa's with us. Hello. I sat and listened to a lot of different people over the years when I first got in, and I went to my local meeting. And there was a guy up there that says, this is the way to get started. And then I went to another meeting, and the guy said, hey, this is the way to get started. And I started writing down all these different ways to get started. And if you've been around the industry for a while, I know Jim's been in for a while, and we've had this conversation, and Liz and I have had this conversation being in different companies. Or even in the same company, you hear different people say, here's the way to get started. And what I did is I started looking for the commonalities. And there were certain commonalities that no matter who spoke, there were certain things that everybody was doing. And I was like, rather than writing down 100 different ways to do this, I started asking what is the best way. And I went out like everybody in the very beginning, and I went out and tried to throw up on people is kind of a common theme inside of the industry. You don't know what to say. You don't know the exact words to use. You don't know the order in which to say things, so you just say everything you can, trying to get somebody's attention. And that did not work out really well for me. I don't know how it worked out for you, but I went 0 for over 300 people that I talked to, which obviously isn't really good. But if you hear my backstory, I actually saw network marketing sort of by accident. My girlfriend's parents actually were in. I was sitting on the couch. We were watching TV. All of a sudden, they kind of came out of the garage with like 30 brown bags that all had numbers on them. And her mom was a school teacher, so my mom was a school teacher. I said, this is school-related, is at least what I thought. The doorbell rang about 4:30, and somebody came to the door. Somebody grabbed a bag. Somebody left. At 4:45, it happened again. At 5, it happened. At 5:15, about every 15 minutes, somebody came to the door, and there was an exchange of bag and money. Eventually, I get up. I go to the restroom. I come back through, and her dad is sitting at a table with like this mountain of like cash and checks, and most of the bags are gone. They said, hey, dinner's going to be ready in about an hour. I was like, okay, cool. And I sit back down, and all of a sudden, like, the wheels start turning in my head, and I was like, what is going on in the other room? So I turned to my girlfriend at the time, and I said, hey, what do your parents do? And she goes, well, they have a business, but they don't want me to tell you about it. And I was like, I don't know what neighborhood you guys grew up in, but I was suspicious, to say the least. I mean, that raised concerns. I'm like, am I going to be on an episode of Cops here soon? Somebody break through the window? So after this is all over, I decide to walk into the other room, and I'm like, okay, what in the world is going on here? I walk into the other room, and I sit down, and I didn't sit down. I just walked into the other room, and I said, hey, what exactly are you guys doing? And her dad's like, and the look was funny because her dad looked at her mom looked back with this like disapproving, like don't say anything look, and now I'm concerned. He's like, oh, let me show you. And he gets up and he starts walking towards the garage. So my heart starts beating, and I think, oh my gosh, he's going to open the door, and I'm going to see like plants and lights, or I'm going to see a chemistry set or something like that. And actually he opened the door, and you know, across from the two cars is just a stack of shelves. And he said, you see those shelves over there? I'm like, yeah. He said, well, we're actually distributors for this company. And, you know, we buy all the stuff at wholesale and sell at retail. And I asked just the normal question you would ask if you didn't understand what the heck he just said. I said, well, how does that work? And I wasn't asking, hey, I want to get in. I wasn't asking, I want to do it. I was asking, how does that work? So what ends up happening is I sit down, and, you know, he actually takes out a yellow notepad, because that's what you're supposed to do in that business. And he kind of draws a line on one side of the page and draws a line on the other side of the page and says, you know, one side of our, you know, there's two things that basically add up to this company, and what we do is we're actually reps for this company. So he said, one side is the system, one side is corporate. He said corporate provides the following. Corporate provides the product and the services and the distribution and the accounting, and basically pays the checks and makes sure everything's working. He said the other side of our business is a system that teaches how this works. And he goes, those two things come together through a sponsor and an upline and a support team. And then you actually get introduced to the company through somebody else, and they get to earn profit from you. And then he kind of drew out this pyramid, for lack of it. I mean, that's the only language I had. So this is the first lesson of tonight, is just because somebody calls something, don't think it's negative right away. They may be saying that because they don't have any other words to describe it. I've talked to so many people, and people are like, so is that like a pyramid? And I'm like, I agree with them. I'm like, yeah, it is. I mean, like one of those things where you can make a lot of money in it. Like, I agree with them, and then as I talk, I try to straighten out the definition, and I try to find out basically what they think that means, because certain people just call all business pyramids. Like, that's just the language they have. It's not because they think the negative side of it. It's just because they don't have any other word to describe it. So that's what it's called. So I just kind of go along with them, and he drew out this like spider web pyramid. One person tells another person who tells another person. He drew it out, and he said, you know, these 6 who show 4, who show 2, and I still remember the comp plan. I did this, I think, on a call maybe weeks and weeks ago, and I still remember exactly how the comp plan works because I was taught to basically share the exact same thing that my sponsor did. I was told to grab a notebook, go watch basically how somebody presented, and present the exact same thing. And everybody presented relatively the same. So I sat down and I learned it. And when he got to the bottom of the comp plan and he drew out the numbers and showed how much you could make, I was like, wait a minute. I was like, so what you're telling me is if I built this, this model that you just showed me with this many people, if I built this 10 times bigger, you could earn $1 million a year doing this. He's like, yeah. Now, I don't know why I understood it. I just did. I was like, okay, I'm kind of a numbers-driven person. I grew up. I like to build things, you know, whether it was Legos or skateboards or, you know, outdoor project, you know, construction. I was in construction with my stepdad and his family. So I like to build things. So I just understood, like, building things made sense to me. And I was like, so you can make $1 million? He's like, yeah. And I was like, are there people who have made $1 million? He's like, yeah. I said, is there anybody who's made $1 million in the United States? He's like, yeah. I said, what about Indiana? He's like, yeah, there's a couple guys who've done it. And I said, do you know them? He's like, yeah, I do. And I was like, well, how do you talk to those people? And he's like, well, there's a meeting, and I invited myself to the open house. Now, get this. I'm 17 years old. So I was the youngest person in the room by approximately 15 years when I went to my first open house. And I dressed in jeans and a T-shirt and a leather jacket, and I had really long hair, unbelievably. I still have long hair now, although you can't tell. But I had long hair that was all down. I looked like a, 1980s. I was really into music at that time, so that's what you did. You grew your hair long and you played music. So that's what I was doing in high school. And I show up to this meeting, and I sit in the way back, and this guy comes up and does a presentation, and I look around at the room, and I was like, this seems like kind of a no-brainer. I was like, I was mad. I was real mad. I was like, why hasn't anybody taught this? Like, I've been to school, not every day, but I was to school a lot, and I was like, I was there on career day. Unbelievably, I skipped a lot of days, but career day I didn't skip. And I was like, there was no class on, distribution. There was no class on network marketing. There was no class on success. There was no class on free enterprise. There was no class on retirement. They just talked about getting a job. And I was like, wait a minute. And he drew out basically the 4 ways to make money. He's like, the first way to make money is the way most people make money, which is become an employee. And I was like, okay, I get that. I've been taught that in school, go to school, get good grades, become an employee. And my mom was a school teacher. My dad was a college professor. So, of course, everything that this guy was talking about up front was, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what my parents told me. And almost 99% of people shook their head in the room. Yeah, that's what our parents told us. And he's like, but is that necessarily working? And I was like, what do you mean? I didn't understand this. He goes, well, think about the people who are hitting the age of 60, 65, 70. He's like, are they retiring and not needing to work anymore? And I was like, and I was 17, and I recognized, I was like, no. And he goes, the guy who hands you the cart at Walmart, how old is he? And I'm like, he's old. I mean, to me, he was 1,000,000 years old because I was 17, and everybody's 1,000,000 years old at, 17. But I was like, yeah, that guy definitely should be in retirement. He goes, do you think that guy's working at Walmart because he wants to or he has to? And I was like, probably because he has to, because that's a conversation that came up a lot at dinners and other conversations was about money. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. He goes, well, the second way to make money is basically become self-employed. And I was like, okay, I understand this too, because my stepdad worked for a company here in town in Indiana. It's a national grocery store chain. We won't name any names, Kroger. And, he had an argument with basically somebody in corporate, and my stepdad decided not to work there anymore because they decided not to pay him, and he wasn't supposed to come to work anymore. He was fired. So that's basically what happened. So he had to go out on his own, and he went out and started a construction business and actually started making more money than what we were doing anywhere else, which kind of was cool. And I went with him, and they said, you know, the cool thing about being self-employed is you can make a lot more money for the time you invest, but it still takes you showing up to do it. And I was like, yeah, I remember that. He's like, and he gave a bunch of examples, you know, hair, massage therapist, construction, this, that, and the other thing. And he started talking to us about business. I was like, yeah, I was 17, but I understood that. I understood buying your own tools. I understood, you know, if you didn't show up to work, you didn't get paid, because, you know, my stepdad kind of broke that down to me. He's like, hey, you didn't come to work that day, so you don't get paid for that day. I was like, what about sick time or this, that, and the other thing? He goes, when you're self-employed, there's no such thing. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Thanks for the lesson and the pay deduction. So he said, the next way to make money is start a business. And I was like, okay, how do you do that? And he goes, well, you can start, there's many different kinds of businesses, but basically what you do is you invest some money and buy something, and what you're looking for is a system that makes it run. And then what you do is you find other people, and you're able to scale that business. Basically take the same idea that makes X number of dollars and multiply it over and over and over again. And I was like, okay, I haven't exactly seen that business model yet, but I liked it. I was like, okay, that makes sense. They said, look, this one's a little bit harder to do because you have to figure it out, and you have to work with people, and you have to figure out how to bring a lot more people on board. And then it hit me. I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, that's like that guy who basically shows up at the construction site and is like, hey, do you need anything? Is everything cool? I was like, that's what that guy does. He owns basically the rights of all these different subcontractors, and I'm like, we're the subcontractors. I was a sub of a sub of a sub. So I was like a nub. I wasn't even a sub. I was just a ub, and my job was to pick up bricks and trash and anything else and shingles and make everything look clean, and then somebody else's job was to take it and cut it and put it in the right place, and somebody else's job was to make sure it was done right. This guy showed up, and he was above all of us, and he basically said, okay, this, that, and that. He was the guy who had the nicest truck. He was the guy that had the really nice watch. He was the guy that showed up kind of like 2:30 in the afternoon, 3, just to make sure everybody was there and the project was still going. And every once in a while, he would show up right before we were supposed to leave, because we always said that we'd work. Hey, how late? I remember him always asking, well, how late are you guys working tonight? And we would always say a number, and he would always show up right before we left. And I never realized what he was doing is just checking to make sure everything was running right. But eventually, I think I asked a question, and he said, oh, yeah, I show up to many different sites because there's many different crews, and that's what kind of gave me that image. I was like, oh, that's what that guy does, is he runs a bigger business and has all these different subs working on all these different projects, and he makes a little piece off of all of that. And what I eventually did the math on is he made more than all of us, probably combined. But it takes a little while to build a business. And then the last way to make money was this investor thing. And this was the coolest thing in the world. He said, what if you had enough money to put it somewhere, and the money basically did help a business grow, and you just got a return on it? Meaning, if you gave somebody $100,000, they would give you back 110 or 120 or 140 or 150. I mean, there's some businesses out there that you can give $100,000 and get $100,000 back. Most of those are illegal, let's be honest. Not all of them, but there's certain businesses out there that's what happens with the money. There's, you know, certain paper investments, there's certain hard assets like real estate, you know, there's stocks and bonds and those kind of things. There's oil, there's diamonds, there's commodities, there's all these different things you can invest in. But what do you have to invest? You got to have money. So this guy said something really important. He said, basically, the left side that I'm showing you, where you basically work per hour, he goes, that side basically is going to pay for you to eat and put a roof over your head. He goes, all this other stuff is to show you how to get wealthy. And he said, have you ever heard, now this was at 17, remember, he said, have you ever heard that 95% of people basically work really hard and don't get ahead, and only about 5% of people get rich? And I started shaking my head. I was like, yeah, I've heard that. He goes, now look at this chart. He goes, I want to show you something. 80% of people end up as employees. 15% end up as self-employed. About 4% end up as a business owner. 1% actually has money as just an investor. He goes, the 5% is on the right and the 95% is on the left. He goes, now here's the scariest part. He goes, the 5% own 95% of the wealth, and the 95% own 5% of the wealth. He goes, I'm going to ask you a very simple question, and if you get this right, we can move forward, and if not, there's the door. He goes, which side do you want to be on? And I was like, that side. I mean, I wanted to punch my guidance counselor in the face when I saw this. I was like, I was so mad. I was mad at my parents. I was mad at every adult that I had ever talked to. I was like, where was this teaching when I was growing up? And what I realized very quickly is everybody that I knew up until that point was basically sitting on the 95% side. And he made a really good point. He said, you know, people who don't know can't teach you something they don't know. And I was like, all right, well, that makes sense. So then I went through my struggle of getting in the business, and I basically told my parents I was doing it regardless. And my parents said, well, if that's the case, you're no longer living here after you turn 18. I turned 18. I finished school. I finished my high school. And then they said, if you want to keep doing this, you're no longer living here. So I was so committed to it, I left my house and was kind of quasi-homeless. And then my girlfriend's parents said, well, we'll take you in because you're dating our daughter, and that would be weird. I was like, okay, that's cool. So that's what I did. I ended up living at my girlfriend's parents' house for a couple. I just saw Jordan's. So I lived at my parents for just a little while, or my girlfriend's parents for just a little while, and then I ended up going to college because that's what I was supposed to do. And I went to build a business when everybody else went to party. So it's really backwards. I went to a lot of seminars that first year, talked to a lot of people, a lot of high school people, a lot of my friends' parents, but I was 18, had no background, had no car, had no cell phone. I didn't have a lot going for me. But I had one thing that I tell people you really can't teach is I had desire. I just wanted to do something beyond what everybody else was doing. I was like, I'm not satisfied with just doing a little bit, just getting by. Like, I wanted more. So eventually, I started getting answers. And the reason I started getting answers, I really started studying, and I started looking at what these people were talking about, and I started taking notes. I took notes, and I looked at the notes later. And then I went and took notes, and I looked at the notes later, and I eventually started seeing people were saying a lot of the same stuff, but there were slight differences, but I started looking at what was common. What was the commonality between all these people? And I eventually added up that all the people were kind of doing something. All the people who were succeeding were doing similar things, and all the people who weren't succeeding were either doing random stuff or they weren't doing the right stuff. They were using different language. And what I found is there were people using employee language and there were people using artistic language or business language. And the problem is if you go talk to somebody who's an employee and you use business or art language, it's a different language. And these people, you notify them right away that you're doing something different, that they don't understand, they don't like in general, and you're going to get all the resistance. So eventually, I heard this really cool thing. My story is I got into real estate, and I got into the mortgage business, and I got trained professionally. I finally said, look, I got to be a professional in something that'll help me in my network marketing career. That's just the way I figured out. So I went all in, and I said, look, I'm going to get this mortgage real estate thing I'm going to figure out. And I started using all the principles. This is what's crazy. I started using all the principles that I learned in the mortgage real estate world, that I learned from network marketing in mortgage and real estate. So the commitment, show up every day, take notes, learn to connect with people, understand their personality. I heard all this in seminars. I heard work hard. I heard show up every day. I heard focus. I heard, don't hang around everybody. Don't do what average people do. Do more. So whatever the top sales number of the day was, I wanted to be it. Whatever the top sales number of the week was, I wanted to beat it. I wanted to be at the top. And I started working really hard, and it started working for me. And all of these audios that I was listening to of all these successful people started helping me connect with these people I was talking to on the phone, because basically in the mortgage business, I was pitching people all day. They taught me this really simple pitch of 5 things to do and say, and I was using that 5 things over and over and over again. Eventually that led me into real estate and buying and flipping homes. And I was in network marketing here, and then I was in a different company and in another company, and eventually I hit this third company. And when I hit this third company, I had had enough experience in mortgage and real estate, I started making really good money. And I had had my first $10,000 month, and then $10,000 week, and then $10,000 day, and I was making great money. So I hit this network marketing thing again, and all of a sudden I'm like 27, 28 years old. So think about this. From 17 till then, I really hadn't done anything impressive. I think the most I had made is like $800 in a month in not the first company, but the second company I was at. But I learned all these lessons, and I worked with really, really great people. And then all of a sudden I hit this next company. And I got to a point where I was frustrated, and basically the economy was changing, 2007, 2008. A lot of people remember this, when the real estate industry started falling apart. That's right when I had joined. I joined December of 2006 in this company, and everything started falling apart in 2007. So all of a sudden, I started drawing from trainings that were a decade old, and I looked at what they were teaching us. And here's what they were teaching us. They were teaching us, because this was right when DVDs were really popular to hand out to everybody, and there was just the beginning of the internet where you could send somebody to a video. And this is what everybody was doing. And I'm like, I saw some people succeeding doing it, but it wouldn't keep duplicating. Although they said that's how it was duplicating. And eventually I had this conversation with this guy who was marketing these DVDs to us. And I said, so you're telling me that you became successful by handing out these DVDs, and you just handed out enough of them that enough people saw it, and then they started doing it, and that's how you became successful. He's like, yeah. And I was like, so when did this DVD come out? He's like, oh, man, it came out in, I think he said 2005, which was about a year before I got in. And I was like, okay, 2005. I said, when did you get started in the business? He's like, 1999, 2000. And I was like, oh, that's funny. I said, how in the world did you become successful with a tool that didn't come out for 5 years? He stopped talking to me. I mean, he cut that conversation off and just walked off. I found out later that that gentleman that I was talking to owned the tool system. He was an owner of the tool system. He was pushing something to everybody that he was actually earning money from. And I'm going to tell on the industry a little bit. That's not necessarily the most positive thing in the world, but I want you guys to understand business. Anytime anybody's marketing anything to you, you need to ask the question, where does the money go and why? Because what I did is I started looking at where the money went and why. And I realized that there were two businesses. Okay, so I'm telling on the industry here. There's two businesses inside of MLM. There is the company and product side of the business, and then there are the tools and the training side of the business. Which one do you think makes the individual more money, the distributor more money? The reality is the tools and the training side make, in the first company I was in, I'm just going to tell on the industry a little bit. In the first company I was in, it was $1 to $20 products to tools. So for every dollar somebody made in product, they were making $20 in tools per person. So I had friends that had hundreds of thousands of people on their team, and my direct upline in this company, I researched years later because there was paperwork that came out where they all fought each other. There was paperwork that came out that the guys that I was directly dealing with were doing between $20 and $40 million a year in tools. Way, way, way more than the average person was making from the company product side. So it gave me, I was like, okay, so this training stuff is pretty important. They always said the training was important. I had no idea it was that important. And here's what I realized, because I had friends who were musicians, I'm like, you know what? This is just like the music business. Now, okay, so here's the relatability to this, is I've got a friend that owns a bar here in town, and the bar basically has bands come play, right? So there's usually a cover charge to get in the door, right? The bar makes the money not from the cover charge. The cover charge goes to pay the artist, the musician. The bar gets the traffic, and the bar gets to sell the food and the drinks and everything else they do. So the music brings everybody in the door, and he gets the cover charge, and the bar makes this. And it's a really good way to do it. And everybody has a good time, but nobody goes back and says, this is wrong. Why am I paying a cover? I should have just paid for it. Once you get involved in the company, I mean, imagine if you were a promoter of that artist, and you did a deal with the artist and said, look, there's a $10 cover charge. I want $1 for every person that walks in the door. I'll help you sell. I'll help you get more people in the door. Then you go to the bar and tell the bar, hey, for every person who orders a drink or food or whatever, I want 10% of everything that happens. That's basically the network marketing business. Only that restaurant's open 7 days a week. Your network marketing business is open 7 days a week. So although I'm kind of telling on the industry, it works like this in many, many, many businesses. The problem is, and here's the problem. The problem is most people don't know it. Until I said it, some of you might not have known how it works. Now, when you go look at everything that's happening in your business and you listen, you're going to listen with different ears, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I want you to know how the business works. Therefore, you'll put your time and effort where it's supposed to be. Now, here's the way I teach, and I told this to everybody when I first got started. I said, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. In fact, I'm going to be too honest with you in some cases. Because some people don't like me talking about what I just talked about. But I'm going to be so honest with you that you'll never question whether I'm telling you the right thing. And that's why I do it this way. And I have people who got mad at me, and then they'd come back later, and they'd be like, you know what, I was really mad when you first told me that. But after a while, I got to the point where I started seeing the stuff you were talking about, and now I get it. Now, what do I do? So that's what we're going to talk about now is what do you do? What do you do with this new information? Well, I found that there was something really simple to get people started. Rather than buying a bunch of tools and handing them out, and rather than buying a bunch of product, and I'm not saying you're not supposed to buy your product. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying you're not supposed to have tools. But rather than buying these two things and just handing them out to everybody, what I wanted to do was build a business. So if I was going to build a business, I needed a business plan. Just like if you're going to go to a bank and you want money. I mean, imagine if you had to go, think about this. Imagine to get into network marketing if you had to spend $100,000, just for instance. Let's say it cost $100,000 to get in. Instead of the average company to get in, if for those of you who don't know, is about $500. It's about $500 to get started in the average network marketing company. The average auto ship in the industry is about $146, I think is what they said. From the last numbers I remember, $146 a month in product or services. So that'll give you kind of a range. That's just average. There's lots of companies, guys. There's over 5,000 different network marketing companies in existence. They're in, I think it's like 100 countries around the world. The United States has about 23 million people involved and does about 25% of all sales globally. And then, the rest of the world is involved. So there's about 100 million people total involved in network marketing. And the total network marketing industry does about $200 billion in sales. That's a lot. $200 billion. So I'm sorry, the U.S. does about 10% of the total global market. So lots of stuff going on, lots of companies, lots of great companies, lots of great leaders, lots of great money. But you got to know how to build a business. So watch this. What if it costs $100,000? And what if you had to go get a loan from a bank? And the only way to get a loan from the bank is you have to present a business plan. Now, if your business plan was, I bought 5 DVDs and I'm just going to hand them out 50 times. The banker might look at you weird and say, I don't know about that. That's probably not going to work. And this is, again, I'm going to tell in the industry a little bit. The presentation that's given to get you in isn't necessarily accurate to build. Let me give you some examples. They tell you that you only need to spend maybe 2 to 5 hours. It's only going to take 2 to 5 hours. 2 to 5 hours a week. You can build your whole business. I will tell you this. There's nobody in the history of network marketing that I've ever met, that I've ever been introduced to, or a story that's ever been told of somebody who spent 2 to 5 hours to build a 6-figure income and beyond. So if that's what you're looking for, I'm here to teach 6 figures. I'm here to teach $10,000 a month or more. The training I'm going to give is to teach you at least how to make that much. So you can make less than that and do less than what I'm saying, but the training is geared towards that, if that makes sense. But I've never met somebody that does it 2 to 5 hours. It sounds great to a person sitting in the room who's already busy, who has a job, and their husband has a job, or a significant other has a job, and they have a dog to feed, and they have a cat to take care of, and they have kids, and they have extracurricular activities, and they have basketball and gymnastics and ballet, and they've got PTO events, teacher conference nights for school, and they've got all this other stuff going on in their life. When we say from the front of the room, hey, you can build it in 2 to 5, that you can be involved in 2 to 5 hours. But to be successful, it takes more time than that. To be involved, yes. But to be successful, it'll take more time than that. So that's kind of the first thing that sounds good, but isn't necessarily always accurate. The second thing is they'll say, and it depends on the comp plan. For those of you who don't know, there's about 5 different comp plans in network marketing. About 5. Everything else is a hybrid version or a version of matching a couple of these two together. There's forced matrix, there's binary, there's unilevel, there's there's threes, do it in threes, and then there's breakaway comp plans. 7 levels deep, and then there's breakaway comp plans. So there's about 5 main ones, and everything else is a version of, maybe hybrid version of a couple of those different things. So in most of the companies, they're like, you only need 2 good people. Have you ever heard that? Or you only need 3 good people. Or you only need a handful of people. Then why do football teams recruit 3 times as many people as they're playing on the field? Why do they have an entire bench and then second layer bench in basketball? Because typically you're going to have to recruit 3 to 10 times as many people as playing on the field. But doesn't it sound good in the meeting when they say you only need 2 people? To a new person, they're like, well, anybody could do that. True, anybody could. But to get those 2, to find those 2 that could build, multiply that number by anywhere between 10 and 20. You're going to need somewhere between 20 to maybe as many as 50 people to find those 2. I found, this is just in my own experience, I found about 1 good person out of every 75 to 100 people I've recruited. You know what? That is absolutely no different than any professional sports organization. That's no different than if you would interview, musicians, whether it be piano or vocal or trumpet or guitar. You're probably going to have to go through 100 people to find 1 absolutely exceptional person that can just do it. Like on demand, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just has it. And there's 2 ways to get that type of person. Either 1, you can find them, and they're hard to find, or 2, you can build them. Now, what do I mean by build them? Is you can put them into a training system that's so good, and a company that's so good, if you combine the training company, or if you divide the company and the training together, if you put them in, that's so good that you can take average people, and average people will perform at a higher rate than normal. How do you do that? You build a culture. You build a team. You build all the things that are necessary that we're talking about on this call and in Leadership University. The things we talk about, John Maxwell, about becoming a leader, and we teach people how to do it. And certain people like me, my family didn't go after $1 million. My family didn't go after the nicest neighborhood. My family didn't go after the nicest cars. My mom basically has an S-type personality, and she looks for average, everything. The fastest, easiest, simple way. I have part of that in me because when I looked at the training and I looked at everything, I said, what is the fastest, easiest, simple way to do this? And they started talking about the DVDs. I was like, well, what's the best, most effective? So that's the other side of the training is I started looking at what's the best, most effective way. And here's what I found. When I get somebody started, what I realize is we need to show them something to do that's so simple and stupid and easy that they're like, anybody can do that. But at the same time, it's so effective that we're going to get something out of it. We'll train them. So here's what I found. Rather than handing out a bunch of stuff and websites and everything, and here's the reason that doesn't work for a new person. A new person coming in, we want to call it like 0, 5, 10, okay? 0, 5, 10. This is what this means. 0, everybody comes into business at least at 5, if that makes sense. So whoever you are, your friends are probably at level 5. 0 is basically people that you have massive influence over. And 10 is people who have massive influence over you. Because most people that get sponsored in these industries come in kind of in the middle of society overall, meaning you're not making no money, but you're not making super gigantic money. You and your peers probably make about the same amount of money, right? Your friends make about the same amount of money. Your friends probably live in similar households or similar neighborhoods. Your friends probably do similar things. That's what we do. We hang out with people who are similar to us. That's pretty normal. So when we go out to contact those people, if you're at the same level or they happen to be a little bit above you, you do not usually have influence over them. Usually. So when you tell them, go watch this, go look at this, what do? They don't watch it. In fact, now, because of technology, and because there's not just Facebook, but there's Instagram, there's not just Instagram, there's LinkedIn, and there's just not Instagram and LinkedIn, there's YouTube, and there's just not Instagram and LinkedIn and YouTube, there's 50,000 other apps and games and junk. I don't know if you get sent this stuff too, but I mean, I at least get 10 game requests every day for farming and bubble pop and bejeweled, and I mean I could name on and on and on and on and on the numbers. People are so distracted, and then people are watching Game of Thrones, and they're now, because of Netflix and Amazon Prime, they're able to like binge watch entire, like people are doing 20-year seasons in 2 weeks. Like they're just 12 hours a day, and you're trying to send them a 30-minute video and saying, just go look at this. Well, why should they look at it? Because I'm excited about it. So, because you're excited about it, how does that change my opinion of what I'm watching? Watch this. Would I rather be entertained watching something that I want to watch, that I'm scheduled to watch, that I plan to watch, that's enjoyable to me, that I know the characters, I know what's going on, or am I going to watch your business video? Only so much time, right? So here's what most people do. They say, oh, yeah, I'll get to it. And they don't get to it. And then you call them, or then you text them, hey, did you watch the video? No, I didn't watch the video. The first time, it's not that weird. They'll, oh, yeah, I forgot. The second time, they'll start avoiding you. By the third time, they won't even acknowledge you because now they feel bad that they haven't watched it. And they don't want to watch it now because now you're hounding them. I mean, does this sound familiar? I mean, I know we can't, at the end, I wish people could, I guess you could write in the comments or something. I wish we could just open the lines. Does this sound familiar? So if this sounds familiar to you, type yes, or at the end, tell us yes. Just remember this, like circle in your notes. Yes, this sounded very, very, very familiar. And you chase them down. That's if you're doing it. Or you send them a Facebook message and they don't open it and they didn't go, oh, I didn't get it, and this and the other thing. Here's what I eventually found. Is if I want to tell my friend something, the best way to tell them is physically tell them. And I went from an education standpoint rather than a go sign them up standpoint. Here was my entire theory. It was the same theory in real estate. If I tell enough people what I do and I give them how to refer me, I will eventually find the right people, and everyone else that I've told could be a walking billboard advertisement for me. Doesn't that sound kind of cool? I was like, that sounds so much better than, hey, did you watch my video? So what I did is I developed something. I took something from real estate, like Bess said, and I took this really simple thing from real estate, and this is how I start people. I said, look, all we're going to do is make a list of 10 people, and we're going to show them what we do, so if they ran into the right person, they could refer them to me. And what most people do is they're like, oh, my gosh, there's this friend of mine, Jim, and Jim would be so good because Jim has coached, and Jim has a business, and Jim has employees, and Jim is the worst. So Jim is a pastor of a church. Oh, my gosh, he has a congregation. Okay, so that's great that you think that this pastor of a church could recruit his entire congregation. But do you understand he probably went into that position with the idea of never using and or abusing his position to make money off of the congregation, right? That's the opposite of why he went in. So when you come at people with the idea, oh my gosh, don't you know you can make money off these people? That's a selfish position to come from. And most people will pick up on that very quickly and don't like it. It's kind of an ugly, creepy, grimy, greasy feeling for most people, especially people in positions of power. So there has to be a better way to introduce it. And I got this from How to Win Friends and Influence People. And if you read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, what you always want to do is introduce somebody to something and have them bring the idea back to you. If the pastor says, you know what, there's a select group of people that I know in my congregation that have mentioned this issue that you're talking about, and they would be the right people, but I want to clear it with them first that you're able to talk to them. Is that cool? That's what you want to happen, right? So what I want to teach next is the way to get that result over and over and over again, where it's not kind of greasy or pushy or coming from a position of selfishness. It's coming from a position of educating people and letting them tell you what to do next. Wouldn't that be cool? So here's how I figured this out. In real estate, most people know what real estate is. Like I've never said, hey, I'm a real estate agent, and people go, what is that? Nobody's ever asked me that. Everybody already knows. They're like, okay, you sell houses. Yes. So the question was, hey, I have a favor. Do you already have someone that you refer business to? Like, do you already have a real estate agent that you refer business to if somebody wants to buy or sell or wants to invest? Do you already have somebody you refer to? And a lot of people are like, no, I don't have a direct person. I said, well, can I be that person? Here's my business card. And people are like, yeah, sure. So then I'll get their contact information, and now I'm able to market to them and tell them what's going on and what comes up. Hey, if you ever run into somebody who's looking to buy, looking to sell, looking to invest, just get a hold of me or tell them to call me. And most people are like, yeah, cool. So that worked so well. I was like, why aren't we doing that in network marketing? And here's what people will say to you is, well, that's just not duplicatable. Teaching people to talk. What they'll say is teaching people to sell isn't duplicatable. And I agree with the sales part. But what I don't agree with is anybody, yes, there's few people who can sell and close. What we're not talking about is sell. We're talking about closing. There's few people who are good closers. But anybody can be a presenter if they have a written presentation that they can read in front of them. Right? Anybody can present. So when I get challenged with well, that's just not duplicatable, which is usually the first thing to say, and I said, that's really interesting. We're able to duplicate doctors. We're able to duplicate surgeons. We're able to duplicate neurosurgeons. You know there's 300,000 qualified neurosurgeons in the United States. We're able to duplicate chemical engineers, nuclear engineers. There's a program where we can duplicate that, print out the same person with the same qualifications doing it the same way. So you're telling me that we can do that in those high of numbers with those specialized fields, and we can't teach a network marketer to present 10 pages, 15 pages with a couple words on them? Like, that doesn't make any sense. The only reason you would say that is because you don't want them presenting. You want them buying this DVD. I said that in front of a group of about 1,000 people, and there were about 5 people in the room that were the owners of the DVD company, and they I could tell they were plotting my demise. I mean, right there, they were like, okay, where does this guy live? Who is his family? What is his phone number? And I said, but wait. There's a perfect place for that DVD, and I want to show you where it is. You still need to have them for every person you talk to. And they were like, they stopped. They still had my address and my name, but they stopped for a second. I had their I said, do I have your attention? And it was funny because those 5 guys were like very slowly nodding at me, not blinking, which is kind of scary. Everybody else was like, yeah, what are you talking about? I said, look. Let's just think about it. A real estate agent, mortgage person. I'm gonna give this example. A real estate agent, a mortgage person, an insurance agent. Think about this. We come to our mortgage person and we're like, hey, we're thinking about refinancing and this, that, and the other thing. We just want to kind of check things out. We know you're in the business, so we want your help on deciding this. And the mortgage person goes, you know what? I'm kind of new to being in mortgages, and I'm not really supposed to say anything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have you watch this video on my phone about mortgages, and if you have any questions, I'm going to get you on the phone with somebody at corporate, and they're going to tell you, I'm not allowed to see the site. The question is would you use that person in the mortgage business? And the obvious answer is no. Why? Because they're not knowledgeable, they're not confident, and they don't even comprehend what they're doing. That doesn't make any sense, right? It just doesn't make any sense. You'd be like, I'm not using them. Imagine coming to a real estate agent and you're finally like, I'm psyched, I'm ready to buy a house. And you know your friend's a realtor and you come to them and you say, hey, look, I know you work for this big company and everything and you're a real estate agent and you've been doing this for a while. And even if you're new and you've been doing this for a while and I really, really, really want to see this house. And they go, you know what, I'm really sorry. I'm psyched about being in this company, and I'm psyched about the products we have in all these companies, but I'm not allowed to say anything. We're going to have to sit down and watch this DVD video first, and if you like what's on this DVD video, then I'll get you on the phone with somebody else who can set that up, and you can go look at it with them, and then you can come. Then you can come to the house. Would you buy a house from that person? And the answer is no. Now, I probably don't even have to give you the example on car insurance because you already get what I'm saying is, we will not buy and or join and or work with somebody who really doesn't comprehend. Now, does it work on some occasions? Yes, but what happens is it puts the person who did it kind of at a disadvantage because there's extra steps. Eventually, and I love Eric Worre said this, Eventually, the person at the front of the room, the person with the marker in their hand, the person with the pen in their hand, is the person making all the money. The faster you can get people to that position, the better. So here's what I'd like to do. If you have somebody who will work this with you, great. If not, you have to do it. And what I challenge people to do to get started is basically make a list of 10 people, and we're going to go tell them what we do. And people are like, oh my gosh, this is the scariest thing ever. And I know it's scary because the number one scariest thing in the world is actually to public speak. Now, you're not public speaking. In fact, what I'm going to teach you how to do is so easy you can do it over the phone. And I'm going to give you an example. If I was going to call Beth and I was going to tell her about this company that I was in years ago, but let's just say I just got in, I would actually probably message Beth. Nowadays, the easiest way to get a hold of somebody is not usually to call them. It's usually to do what? Facebook or text them. So I would probably text, just because I'm a text person. And this is just me. If it's business, I text. And if it's social, I use Facebook and all the other platforms. That's just me. That's how I do it. So I would text Beth, hey, what are you doing? Hey, it's, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 10:10 Eastern Standard Time, which means it's probably 9 o'clock out where she's at. I say, what are you doing other than watching TV or hanging out? Now that's my friends. Beth might not be watching TV, but I say, what are you doing other than hanging out? She's like, oh, I'm just sitting here, dog, Charlie, we're just, looking at stuff and I'm studying. Okay, great. I said, I need a huge favor. Do you have 10, 15 minutes right now? I wanted to talk to you. And she's like, yeah, what are you doing? I then pick up the phone and call her. I say, hey, great to see you. What's going on? How was your weekend? I still do that. Hey, how are you? What's going on? And then I get right to the point. I say, look, I needed 15 minutes because I wanted to tell you, I actually just started working on something outside of my massage and holistic company, and I want to tell you what I do. So if you'd ever run into the right person, you could refer them to me. I can actually do business now depending on where your company's at, I can do business in the United States. I can do business in all of North America. And I wanted to tell as many people what I'm doing as possible, so if they know the right person, they could refer them to me. That leads people to ask you this question: what are you doing? Now, here's what I didn't say. I didn't say I started this cool business. I didn't give a testimonial story. Oh, my gosh, I tried this product, and I lost weight, and my lights, were 10% brighter, and my mortgage interest went down, and my heat efficiency in my house went up, and my car started running better, and my dog barks louder. I didn't give all of the testimonials of the products. I went right to, because I'm going to tell her about the whole thing, not part of it. Because she just gave me permission by saying, what are you doing? Now I go to now here's the thing. This is where the duplication comes in. You want to have a presentation. And we talk about this in our school. There's 5 things to a presentation. The company. How did it start? When did it start? Who's behind it? Those 3 things. How did it start? When did it start? Who's running it? The company. The second thing is the need in the marketplace. That's where the statistics come in. The need in the marketplace. If you have a weight loss product, I'm just saying, if you had a weight loss product, you talk about obesity and how many people are obese and the health concerns behind obesity. Obesity contributes to the number one thing people die from, which is cardiac arrest, cardiac disease. Number one thing to kill people. Second thing to kill people is usually cancer. Third thing that kills people is respiratory, diabetes. Diabetes and the rest of the things are on the list, right? High blood pressure, high cholesterol. These are all things that contribute because of obesity. How many people are obese? A lot. It's like 6 out of 10 people are overweight in the United States. 4 out of 10 are obese. It's a problem, right? And now it's getting younger and younger and younger, and there's kids and everything. Now, I just gave you what I know from the top of my head. You want 3 or 4, guys, 3 or 4 points. The need in the marketplace. And what I just said, anybody who studies any of this, anybody who studies that particular industry and those numbers, you shook your head and go, yes, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I know that. That's not, that's not news to anybody. People are like, yeah, I know that's a problem. Then it comes to the product. The product is the solution to the need in the marketplace. I said, well, and this is where your testimonial goes. I actually had the problem. I was overweight. I wanted to lose 10 pounds. I found a product, started using it a couple weeks ago, talked to my friend, and my friend's like, I'm like, yeah, I want to get it. But they told me I could not only do it wholesale, but I could actually be a representative of the company. So I decided to be a representative of the company, and I'm actually going to market this stuff. And I wanted to tell you basically, again, why we do what we do, so if you run into the right person. So here's basically the product line we have. Here's the stuff I used. Here's the results I got. Here's what some other people are getting results of. It's awesome. That's the product line. You know, so I wanted you to know this. So if you ever ran into somebody who's like, oh my gosh, I need to lose weight, I need to get on a diet, it's the beginning of the year, I ate too much at Thanksgiving, I ate too much at Christmas, I ate too much at New Year's, I ate too much on Tuesday, I ate too much on Wednesday, every day of the year. And now I'm suffering all these, you know, aches, pains, you know, I can't fit into my clothes, my belts don't fit, you know, again, you know, I can't get into my car, I can't even get out of my house. It seems like, you know, I'm just eating bad all the time, and I love an alternative. Then you go to, and I decided to become a rep. So sometimes there's 3 ways, sometimes there's 4 ways in companies. And what I mean is, you know, you can buy the stuff retail. So now I talk about purchasing power. You can buy the stuff retail. You can actually get involved as a preferred customer. Most companies have some kind of customer program. And then there's 2 kinds of reps. 2 kinds of reps. One is kind of like a Sam's Club wholesale member. They want to buy it at a discount. They might talk to some people, but they're not necessarily wanting to build a business. They just, you know, wanted the wholesale. And then the last, somebody who wants to make money and build a business. Now, I'll be real honest. I love what I do, but some of the people that I know are doing really financially really well in this company, and I was like, I would love to build a second income. So just in case the economy flips again, like 2007 and 8. I have a backup plan, you know, and I found most people don't have a backup plan, right? And by saying that, they will ask themselves, do I have a backup plan? I don't have a backup plan either. You don't have to tell them or ask them. They will automatically do it when you say, you know what, I was in a situation where I didn't have a backup plan, so I looked at this, man, at least this is a backup plan. You know, even if I only make $500 or $600 or $800 or $1,000 a month, at least I have a backup plan, because most people don't even have a backup plan. They will ask themselves the question in their head, I don't have a backup plan either. So if they're interested in a backup plan, they'll probably ask. So I said, these are the ways to get involved in the company. Here's the pricing difference. And then the last thing in those 5, so we talked about what? The company, the need in the marketplace, the product, the compensation plan, a little bit. Here's the different ways to buy, and you can make money, and, you know, there's different ways to make money. You know, there's percentages. I can get into all that, but I just want to let you know that there's a couple different ways to do it. If you want to know more about the income, we can talk about that. If anybody has any questions about it, you know, just feel free to get it. I don't know all the details, but I can certainly get them a tool. And this is kind of where in the story I was like, do you see how my way, they automatically, the people who want more information on the product or want more information on the thing, the DVD's right there. Now that they know what I'm talking about, now that they're interested, now that they're asking about it and they know what it is, they want the details. That's where your DVD comes in. That's where your website comes in. Because here's the thing, you don't have to automatically get them on the phone with somebody. They might want to watch the DVD and then get them on the phone. You might want to watch the DVD right there. At that point, then we talk about the last thing, which is the timing and the team. The timing of the business, where you're at, what the company's doing, or the team itself. Hey, this is the group of people we work with. I would love to introduce you to them if you're interested in a backup plan and or making money. If not, I would love to introduce you to them anyway because they're great people. But I mean, if you don't, you know, if you're just going to refer, that's cool. So that's what I do. That's how I do it. I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to hear me out and know what I do. And I just have a real simple question for you. You know, either A, you'd help me out and refer me, or B, you have some interest in what I'm doing. Which is it? You know, just to kind of help me, because I'll get you the information if you want it. If not, no big deal. And most people will come straight out because you give them options. They're like, if somebody's like, they have no interest in sales or marketing or anything, they're like, yeah, I'd help you out. I'd refer you. I said, great. If I ever have extra product or whatever that's really cool, if you're open to it, I'll send you. You can try it out and tell me what you think. Some people are like, yeah, send it to me. I'll try it. Great, easy, simple. Do you have to beat them up with every email and everything? No, just send them the product. Send them a sample of something. You know, you say, well, ours doesn't come in samples. That's okay. Put it in a brown paper bag. Put it in a plastic bag. You know, divvy it up however. You know, send the label. You know, send it out to them. Let's say B. They're like, I actually, you know, I have some, or they're going to ask the question, well, how exactly does, I said, look, I wasn't here to try to get you in, but I can get you the information. I can either send you this website or DVD, or that friend of mine's online right now. I can just bring them onto the phone. Which would be better? I'd love to introduce you to my friend, but we don't have to do that right now. Do you just want the video? Which is simpler? And most people go for the video because now they want the information. I don't necessarily want to tie somebody up who just wants more information. If they just want more information, great, we'll get you the video. I said, how about we watch this now, and then I'll introduce you to my friend. And most people are like, yeah, that's cool. Great. Awesome. So I said to this audience of 1,000 people, I said, now do you understand where the DVD? I said, everybody needs DVDs because that third party, I was out showing the business at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. sometimes. I was showing the business at noon. I was showing the business at 1 o'clock. I was showing the business at 2 o'clock. I was having conversations at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. My upline wasn't up all the time. I can't call my upline at 2 in the morning, my time, and they're in California or vice versa. I can't get somebody on the phone all the time. But a tool can do that. A website can do that, but only after they know what it's about. And you don't have to be, watch this, you don't have to be a master presenter to get somebody to listen. But you do have to get their attention. This is just what I found. If you present to 10 people, here's what happens. One of them is just, you might catch them at a bad time. Out of 10 people, you always get one person that's either negative or totally not interested or totally distracted. They're just like, and they don't, you might not even get through the presentation. They'll say they have time to get through the presentation, and they'll be like, look, I got to go. 1 out of 10. 3 are kind of like, meh. Well, how do you, are you kind of like, would you want me to send you some information on it? Do you have some interest, or is it just something you're going to refer? Meh. They won't even answer you. They're so non-committal to everything in life, they won't even answer you. Okay, I just say, hey, great. Thank you so much for learning about what I do. If you ever run into somebody, send them my way. It'd be awesome. And they'll be like, yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. Talk to you later. 3 of the people are going to be like, yeah, sure, I'll refer you. No problem. Was it cool if I ever have samples or anything, I'll send it to you. I'm not trying to get you. I'm just saying, try it and tell me what you think. Yeah, cool. Yeah, okay. Those 3 people, usually people who listen, who will refer and like, yeah, absolutely. They'll try something. If it doesn't cost them anything, sure. Yeah, no problem. 3 of the people are going to want information. Now you presented 10 times. The most important part of this 10 is not the 3 people that wanted information. It's the fact that you presented 10 times, and every time you do it, you're going to get different situations, and you're going to get better at what's going on. So you do 10. What do you do once you're done with those 10 people? You do it again. Then you do it again. Just do it at 10 people at a time. If you get through 10 people in a week, great. If you get through 10 people in a month, great. But if you get through 10 people the rest of your life, probably not so great. It'll take more work than that. Does that make sense? The faster you do these 10, the faster you get started. Now, if I'm starting somebody, I'll ask them, I say, look, what kind of pace do you want to go with this? Do you, are you interested in $1,000 a week, or are you interested in $1,000 a month? And most people, again, wanting to be average, not wanting to break records. Most people are kind of like, I'm good, but I'd love to have extra money. I'm not really hurting right now, but I'd love to have extra money. It'd be kind of nice. I don't want to go all out. I don't want to quit what I'm doing. I don't want to be inconvenienced. I certainly don't want to give up Lord of the Rings and, Game of Thrones and Lost and, all the other shows that are on. I watch The Office every Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and sometimes Saturday and Sunday. I do nothing. I sit on the couch and I eat bonbons, and I don't know why I have these problems in my life. But, I don't want to do that, but I'll just make $1,000 a month. I said, great. The way to do that is we're going to present to 10 people in 10 days. It's like one person a day. It's not that hard. And people are like, yeah, okay, that sounds pretty good. I said, we can do it at lunch. Just get me on the phone. Now, I'm willing to help the people because I know how to do this. I said, look, what I want you to do is listen to me do it 10 times. And within 10 times, you'll either stop me and you'll start doing it because you'll get this, and then I can help you with whatever happens. Or at the end of 10, you're like, okay, this is cool. I can totally do it. I just want you to hear 10 presentations because the most likely person to get someone in is someone who is clear, confident, and concise. I said I want you to listen to this 10 times because I'm clear, confident, and concise, and I can transfer how to show this. I also want to show you how to present it. People are like, okay. Now, I don't do some amazing presentation. I literally just read it to people. And people are like, well, that was easy. I was like, good. That's it's supposed to be easy. And I've had people go, I'm a better presenter than you. I'm like, thank the Lord. I'm like, can we pray right now? I'm like, that's awesome. I'm like, I hope you are, because I'm not that good, but I'm consistent. I do it again and again and again and again and again and again and again, and I make up in numbers what I lack in skill. And people are like, I can do this. I can do this. And when people start saying I can do this, not only can I do it, I can probably do it better than you. I mean, imagine people just automatically saying, I can. You don't have to do this for me, man. I can do this. I'm good. I helped my friend show so many people. I asked this friend of mine one time, this was the third company we were in that we built to pretty good size, about 8,000 people on the team. I asked my friend Josh, I was like, Josh, I said, you've heard me do that presentation so many times. I'm like, do you kind of have it memorized? He's like, and he did this in front of, I mean, there was probably a room of 100 people at the time. He started laughing because I had him up and we were interviewing him on a panel. He's like, Jeff, I know this is creepy and it might be even weird. He goes, but sometimes I'm laying in my bed and it's really quiet and I can actually hear you presenting. He's like, I can hear it that much. I said, it's not supposed to be like that. That's really creeping me out. But do you get the point that you just do it over and over and over again? He's like, yeah. He's like, dude, I have it memorized. I could do it backwards. If I learned Spanish, I could do it in Spanish. If I learned Russian, I could do it in Russian. Imagine, think about this. Imagine having an entire team of people that knows that presentation so well that no matter where they go in the world, they could do a presentation like that. The first presentation I ever learned in the first company I was ever in, I drew it out so many times. I can draw it out today with the exact perfect numbers. And it was funny because I was trying to teach this to somebody, and I did it like while I was talking to them. It was the first time I did it in like 10 years. And he's like, well, you show this all the time. I said, I actually haven't done that presentation in a decade. It's that ingrained. It's that memorized. Imagine having a team of people. Here's what it'll do. It'll completely set you free. You don't need, this may be bad, you don't need your upline. It's great if you have them. You don't need them. You are 100% responsible for your business. You're 100% in control of what's going on. It's simple, it's easy, and you can duplicate it to the next person because you'll just help them. The DVD and or video is there as a crutch because what happens if the internet goes out? Oh, guess can't present tonight. No business has taken place. I'm going to go back home. That's not good. So I give you the example. Sometimes what's so easy and simple is actually hurting you. The example is there was this group that started in the Midwest. Somebody had sponsored them from Florida. Group got up, got going. Within 120 days, there was over 100 people on this team. They were doing it all through these videos, the internet videos. They started a meeting like 30 days in because they already had 30-some people. So they have this meeting. So eventually they get to the point where, like, I think there was almost 100 people in the room, and like 30 of them were guests. Maybe it was 40 guests. I mean, it was a lot. 40 guests. The guy at the front of the room running the meeting is like, all right, guys, we're going to get going. Let me hook up this laptop and this, that, and the other thing. The internet in the hotel didn't work. So they went around the group, you know, could we get it on our phone? Can we somehow? They couldn't do it. They sent everybody home. Not one person out of 100-some people in that room knew the presentation and could get up and actually do the presentation. That team eventually collapsed because that night people worked so hard to get people out. Here's what people realized 120 days in. There's not one person in this room that's competent, that knows what's going on. There's not one person in this room that can be concise and convey the message we need to say. And there was nobody confident about what they were doing because they relied so heavily on this technology that collapsed that it collapsed their team. That's not the only time I've heard that happen. I can't tell you. I presented in front of people for about 6 years straight, at least 3 to 4 times a week. We did a luncheon on Monday. We did an open house on Tuesday. We did a luncheon on Wednesday. We did a luncheon on Thursday. And we did our training on Thursday. And sometimes we were doing a weekend event. Now, I was traveling all over the place. That wasn't just for our market. That was all over the place. That's how many times we were doing it. There was at least a dozen times that we had technology issues where we couldn't use the PowerPoint and everything like that. And I was like, no problem. I was down in Florida and it happened. And the guy's like, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this. We can't get that. I was like, no problem. I'll just do it. He's like, you can do it without. I was like, yeah, I don't need the presentation. I don't need any of that. I'll just do it. You'll be fine. And he was just, I mean, he was nervous. He was like, okay. That sounds good. Yeah. And sweat's rolling off his forehead. And he got up and did his opening. And he was like, I had no idea. And I was like, if you know what you're doing, it becomes easy. So that's how we get people started. A list of 10, a presentation. We present to 10 people. We get those basically 4 different reactions, totally not interested, gone, out there, weird reaction, negative reaction. 3 people are, about 3 people are like, sure, I'll refer you, and 3 people want information, or 3 people, I mean, if they're the right people, they're like, hey, what does it take to get, people ask questions, well, how much does it cost to get into this thing? That's a buying. They're ready. They want to know. How much does it cost? Which what they're saying is if the price was right, I'd probably get it. Now, you're only going to know that if you're working with somebody who knows that. They'll ask financial questions. So with that, guys, I went a little long. But I hope I got the point in. I hope this was helpful. In fact, I'm going to turn this over to Bess so we can get all of her stuff. Then we'll stop the recording and open it up so we can have some conversation and see if this helped out, what you got out of it. I appreciate everybody. Let me turn this back to Bess. Bess, can you hear me?
Yep. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Thanks, Jeff. A lot of good stuff. Thank you for sharing with us maybe the unorthodox, the true. Let's see, I had a, where did that go? I just had a, where did that go? It just disappeared. Anyway, thank you for sharing with us the unusual, the truth, the simple, helping us to understand how to not go to sleep in this business, to be responsible, awake, aware, stand on our own feet, to know the presentations, to do what's more effective than sending to a video. This is not widely taught out there, so I'm glad to bring it here. And you have an agent profile of, it just disappeared. I'll get it back here. But Jeff has an agent profile that he uses. I have my own questionnaires, but we're using what he designed, which asks your prospect about their family, their work, their family, occupation, recreation, and some other questions. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. It's right here. There it is. These are good questions to ask, and I'm going to read these off, but don't worry about writing them down real fast because I'm going to send out this agent profile list with the replay. So I'm just going to read them off real quick and help you to understand that this is why you want to get to know your new recruit so that you can learn about their skills, their people that they know, their associations, their talents, their interests, and also their why, because you want to memorize your front line's why. You want to automatically know that so that you can refer to that every time that you say, hey, let's get to the meeting. Let's bring people to the meeting. Let's all get to the company convention. Let's bring 5 people so that you can fire your boss, so that you can be home with your kids, so that you can have a dignified retirement, so you can pay off your student loan or whatever that their why is. So know their why, and also this agent profile questionnaire helps to know their personality so that you can work with them, their strengths and weaknesses, and we will get more into personalities another time too. But here's some of the questions. Family, occupation, recreation, and then 5 more questions of the 4 categories. So you can ask, and remember, you don't have to write all these down, I'll send it out. But where were you born? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? What were your school activities? And what level would you get to? Did you have a big or small family? Did you have guardians? Who were the closest growing up? What was your first job? What job did you like best? What job did you dislike the most? What's your current job and your duties there and your likes or dislikes about that? And then about recreation, what do you like to do when you're not at work? How often? And what would you do if money and time were not an issue? And then 5 more questions. What's your 3 greatest strengths? What are 3 things you need to improve on? What motivates you? Where do you want to be in 5 years? What's the most important to you right now in your life? Wouldn't you like to know these about people that that are your teammates, that are your business partners, and that you are training and coaching to be successful in business? Wouldn't you like to know all of this so that you could work with them better, know what's important to them, know what they value, know what they're strong in and what they're weak in? Because different personalities are strong and weak in different things. Some people are good at details, and you can just say something once to them and they've got it, or they remember all the little details, like how to get to the event, and they remember they've got to make reservations, how they got to make hotel reservations, or get a babysitter or a pet sitter or whatever, or you know, figure out the route and the plan and how they're going to get there. And other people, you need to say, hey, did you think of this? So some people are good at detail, some are not. Some are good at lifting the spirits of other people, and some are not. Some are good at bullet points and being very direct and focused, and some are not. Some are good at relationships, and some are not. So kind of know who you're working with, who your business partners are, with that agent profile. Another thing about starting new people is help them to know as soon as possible that they are responsible for their business and not you. You're just there to help them. This is their business. And our friend Lisa Grossman likes to say, I will help you grow your business. And she says the important part in there is you grow your business. I will help, but you grow your business. And I like to say everything that you do with your recruit, new or old, ask, is this making them independent of me or dependent on me? The goal is to get them all independent as soon as possible, right? So that's why we make sure that everything duplicates, and everything Jeff just mentioned duplicates. So the whole goal is to get them independent as soon as possible and to help them get immediate reinforcement and success, like their first check, their first customer, their first distributor, their first recognition at a meeting. These are all successes, you know, their first income of selling a product. Help them to get their starter money back as soon as you can, because most new recruits quit within the first 2 months. They get discouraged and say, oh, this is harder than I thought. I can't do this. I got a couple no's. I tried it with 4 people and it didn't work, so I gave up. So you have to help them remember the numbers that Jeff was speaking about. It isn't just going to be the first 3 people they talk about. It's going to be 10% of the people that they talk to may join as a customer or distributor. So help them realize the numbers and be realistic. All you need is 5 to get 5 to get 5, but you might have to talk to 50 to get those 5. So help them to understand that and help them to become immune to discouragement. Of course, that favor script, never gets a no because it's indirect, and the whole purpose of that is education. Just to let people know, the purpose of that is not to get customers or get distributors to sign people up. It's just to educate them. And so the always get a yes, the favor script, can I ask you a favor, for referrals. The whole purpose of that is to do as many presentations as you can to whoever. You just get people to listen to you. And if they're interested or they might know people too, because everybody knows a couple hundred people. So the whole purpose is to tell your presentation, do your presentation all day long, as many 2 to 5 times a day if you can. The favor script makes it easy and reduces that discouragement because it doesn't get objections. There's nothing to object to. They're just listening to you in case they know somebody that they can refer to you. So it bypasses the objections or MLM stigma, which is another thing I really like about it. So you have the easiest way that I know to get them started right, but still help them get a realistic picture of how many people they need to talk to not take things personally. If that person says, well, I don't know anybody to refer and I'm not interested myself, don't take it personally. Just go on to the next person. Realize that's a numbers game. Gosh, I think that kind of covers it here. I could mention the 8 steps that I've heard you talk about before, Jeff, which is that you define your goal and you set your goal. You define your commitment. You set your goals, which is to get that person paid and promoted as fast as you can. You write a list. One of your greatest assets is your phone and your Facebook lists. See who there that you can present to, but start out with the people that are the most influential, the ones who have a job, a car, a home to pay for, family. These are their whys, and who are successful already at something, who are hungry, who are ready to grow and looking for something different, maybe entrepreneurial people. So these are the people you want to present to first. They're kind of the easiest first. And then you do the 10 at a time, like Jeff was saying. You can text or Facebook message 10 friends. So you help the people to do this. And then you teach them how to, you can write your 10-minute presentation and just copy it and give it to them. So that's real duplicatable. Just use your company's website information. Make sure everything you're saying is company compliant from their information. It contains those 5 elements, which are in your Always Get a Yes book. So you write your 10-minute presentation, give it to them to do, teach them how to follow up, check back with them, teach them how to track their progress, especially the number of presentations. If there's one thing, they could track the number of people that they call or the number that sign up, and the most important numbers to track is how many presentations they do. That's the bottom line of their success, and the most important thing to do and the most important thing to track. And then teach them to follow the 10 core that we mentioned, which is the getting them started right checklist here. Be here a year from now, personal development, market daily, which means to invite people, however you get around people, that's marketing, and present daily, which is your 10-minute presentation. Attend a weekly presentation, which is where you bring prospects, and it helps you to get good and deepen your belief in your product and company, but it also is a place where you can bring prospects. Attend a weekly core training like this, attend a monthly regional, attend all company conventions, and the monthly action plan. So make sure that they're doing all of these, you're doing all these things and role modeling to them to do all these things. I think that's it in a nutshell. Get started right. Back to you, Jeff.
Okay, guys, so what we're going to do is I'm going to turn off the recording, and we want to open up the call and see what you got out of this, what you liked best. For those of you who are watching the replay, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you got a lot out of this, too. Go ahead and feel free on the MLM Millionaire Club page. Please leave us a message, what you liked best, and we hope to see you this next week.